We're going now to Kim from Arizona. Kim, how can we help you today?
Hi, thank you for taking my call. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound
Yes.
great.
Okay, I have really bad cell service at my home, so
Well, don't
I
move.
apologize if it gets choppy.
Where you are now
I'm
is perfect.
frozen. Yeah. Okay, so I've been married 19 years, just celebrated 19 years in July. We went on a big family vacation over the summer, and about less than 2 months ago, so I'm sorry, about 5 weeks ago, I confronted my husband because he had some behavior that was suspicious. I suspected he was talking to another woman, and he immediately admitted that he and was very indifferent and cold in that moment, not surprised or embarrassed or, you know, he wanted to be caught. He said that at that point he had only been talking to this woman for about 2 weeks. It's a coworker. And now that I understand limerence, I mean, I think he went in, I don't know if you can go into a limerence state that fast, but he clearly made it very clear immediately that he can't have any physical contact with me. And so for now, 5 weeks or so, we're just roommates. We are sleeping in the same room. He's kind, he's polite, respectful to me and the kids. You would never know anything's changed. My question for you is, I don't know my role. I'm being very smart about my contact. I wasn't in the beginning, but I am now. I'm ready to ride out this storm while he goes through this process of limerence and in the valley. But I don't know, do I blatantly ignore when like yesterday, he said, I'm going to be gone for a few hours, which means he's going to be with this other woman. He'll just leave. And when he comes back, we just pretend like nothing happened. Does that make me a doormat? Do I make plans as a family? I don't know how much to include him. He's completely indifferent towards me besides surface talk.
He's
Long
completely
question,
indifferent
sorry.
towards you besides what? What was the last thing you said?
Small talk. Like, we
Small
can
talk.
have small
Gotcha.
talk,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not like he's initiating a lot of small talk. But I've been on a health journey for myself since about May and getting fit. I'm glad I started that before this all came about. So I already had that part of my pie going. But I get up every day and walk. He was volunteering to come walk with me, but he's trying to get himself fit for this other woman. I'm not trying to make any deep conversation with him anymore. I don't want to appear that I'm pulling back and indifferent now in return. I'm trying to give him space, but I don't want that to be interpreted that I don't care, or I just don't know my role. He's made it very
Yeah.
clear he wants to leave and start over,
Why hasn't he left?
even if it doesn't work. Um, that's a good question. We can't afford for him to leave. He can't afford to leave. But he has not used the word divorce. He's
Mm-hmm.
totally dodging the word. But he says, I know that this woke me up. Meeting this person made me realize how miserable I am here, and I don't see any
Mm-hmm.
possibility of it being different. After 19 years, no, it's not going to be different,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to start over. Well, he's not thinking logically. He's really starting
Right.
over isn't that cut and dry, right? We know that.
Yeah. Hey,
Um,
Kim, can I ask you a
so
question?
yeah.
How are you doing right now? So, physically, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, do you feel like you're doing well, or are you falling apart? You sound like you're being really strong. So, I'm just trying to get a gauge on how you're handling this whole situation.
Well, I am a person of faith.
Mm-hmm.
I jumped deep into my seeking God spiritual, for his help and strength. And that's that whole piece that passes all understanding. I have really done well. If you
Mm-hmm.
had told me that this was coming and I'd respond this way, I would not have believed you. I have my moments because I'm human. I'm crushed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sad
Sure.
that he's not opening up and talking, but having understanding now that I've come to your site, I have a lot of hope. I feel like I have enough hope for both of us that the storm will pass. And overall, I'm doing really, really good. I am.
So what would you do differently at this point?
Differently, like what do you mean?
So like
differently from or differently present.
So what are you looking, because the question that you were asking at the beginning was, I feel like I'm being a doormat. I don't know if I should say something or if I should do things differently, because you didn't say these exact words. I can't remember the ones you said, but there was a spirit of you feel like you're condoning if you're not saying anything against it. Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah, a little bit. I know if I bring it up, that's going to be a push behavior. I just right now feel a little bit like if I just pretend like nothing's going on, is that enabling him, and is it could he perceive me as, not, would he lose respect for me because I'm just allowing this to go on? And like, I know it's not my job to issue consequences, but
I mean, this is it's a hard conversation to have in 6 minutes, because there's just so much going on that if you were working with a coach, that the coach would be asking you deeper questions, getting more of the knowledge behind it. Jim can speak to that much better than I can, as he is over all of our coaches. But I mean, and not knowing your full situation, I understand your question. And do we at Marriage Helper believe that you should have the ability to set boundaries and what we call stops and things like that? And do we believe that you should not be a doormat? The answer is yes. But every situation is different.
He's not being rude. He's not being disrespectful.
Right.
And he's told me many times he's been very kind. Like, he's very surprised at my response. And he actually, when he admitted to the affair, he said, I thought you would be relieved. He really thought that I was in the same place as him, as, being really not into the marriage. We're still in the same bedroom. We're still, in the beginning, I was trying to be very cordial and very serving him and doing a lot of domestic stuff to bless him and extend grace. And now I feel like I should probably pull back, but I don't want to be blatantly obvious that I'm just like, you're on your own. I just, very gray how to cohabitate when he is clearly made up his mind. However, we are supposed to be coming to the workshop in November.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, good.
I just think now, I think I said to him, if you could come to this and you make an educated decision, you still want to leave, I will release you. Now I'm like, he's just going to think, because he went out on a walk to talk to the other woman right after I said that to him, and he's probably like, we just got to make it through till November, and then she'll release me.
Well, you don't know what he's thinking, so I would encourage you to not read too much into those things right now. Jim, what would you have to say here?
Well, thank you for your stand. I will tell you that it's refreshing to hear your attitude towards it, and I know you have good and bad days, and I'm sorry about that. I will tell you this: it's a pretty common question that occurs of people wonder if they're doing it. Well, actually, more of they feel like, and many times the way we feel is based on our perspective. So if you can reframe things, sometimes that can be a little more helpful. In other words, you're still in control of every decision you make. So is someone using you if you choose to allow them to have some amount of grace in there? Well, not really. You're offering grace. So you could look at right now that you're offering towards your husband some grace, some latitude for him to discover where he is. Now, does that mean enabling? Well, I don't think so at all. I think if you were giving him a ride to the other woman's house or making phone calls and setting appointments up between him and the other woman, that would be enabling. Do you hear what I'm saying? But not being a lot of times people, and I'm not saying this is you, but with my experience with clients in the past, a lot of times the way they process enabling is they're not fighting them every day on it. In other words, I disagree with this. You're doing wrong. That's not right. You're hurting me. You're hurting the kids. And then they're like, well, if I'm quiet, am I enabling him? Well, no, you're just not punching him in the gut every time he makes a bad decision. So you can reframe that. And if you think logically about it, which is not easy in this time because most of this is emotional, if you think logically about it, he didn't stop yesterday. If you don't tell him you don't want him to be in an affair, he's not going to go, oh, I wonder if she changed her mind. He knows that about you, right?
Right.
And so, like I said, unless you're
Right.
doing something that helps him to do it, I don't call that enabling. If I'm giving you something, in other words, if I let you, and let me bring it to something that's not relationship. If I go out to eat with you 2 or 3 times a week and I choose to pay, and my friend walks up and says, man, that person's just using you. I'm like, no, they're not, because I choose to do that. You can't use me if I'm
Okay.
choosing to do that. So, see, this is your response in mercy and grace to give him something that he may not even deserve right now. And I think
Mhm.
that's a very powerful place
And
to
that's
be.
true. The 5 love languages that people talk about, and mine is acts of service. So it comes natural for me. Now that's not his love language, but
Hmm.
um, I recently stopped working, and so now I'm home, and I love to be domestic and serve
Hmm.
my family, and so I've been doing a lot to serve him, and it's truly out of joy, and I see him with God's eyes, and I just love him
That's
unconditionally,
good.
but I don't want to do so much that it could be, maybe a push, like
Well, I
I'm
don't know that
sucking up
those
to
things
him.
become pushes. I think we spend too much time worrying about what we're doing, and some of the times it's just real obvious. Okay, so the encouragement I would
Okay.
offer you there is don't do anything you're not able to continue. I had a client one time say, "I'm going to write my husband a love note every day for the rest of our life," and I said, "Girl,
Wow.
you might want to pause a minute. That's 365 just in the first year. I can't think of that many good things to say about anybody, you know." So you might want to make sure you
Right.
don't do things you can't continue. Don't try
Hmm.
to pay back for what you didn't do in the past. Start now doing what adds value, what brings love, like, and respect, and
Hmm.
do that consistently, and do it without the expectation of return or
Yep.
reciprocation,
That's the big
especially at
part.
this point. And I think
Right.
Hmm.
that's the way you want to do it. And then we just pray that, hey, no matter what his decision is right now, we're hoping as we get to the workshop
Hmm.
that he has some answers to even what's going on in his own mind. And
Yeah.
so I'm looking forward to you guys being here in
Right.
November.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kim.
I It's been interesting. I feel like he grew a second head. I don't recognize him.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I'm,
I have
Pretty
seen that a
normal.
bunch of
but
times. No problem. Thank you,
thank you for
Kim.
your help.
Take
Thank
care.
you.